Hello, everyone. Hello and welcome to the Spartan Town Hall. So today we have our own school resource officer, Officer Ingalls, and 8 of our elected officials here to talk to you today and respond to some of your questions. We're very thankful that they took the time to come out here today. So today we're going to discuss gun laws, adolescent mental health, and school safety. So I'd like to invite all of them up to the stage at this time. So first we have our school resource officer, Officer Ingalls. Then we have Town Councilor Kathleen Hill. We also have Town Councilor Don Anderson. We have State Representative Brian Ash. And we have State Senator Eric Lesser. And we have 4 school committee members here today. We have Deirdre Mayu. We have Rich Ferchero. Gregory Thompson. And last but certainly not least, Bill Fonseca. Thank you once again to all of them for coming here today. So I'll go through the rules really quickly so we're all on the same page, and then we'll get started. So we're going to try to get through as many questions as possible, so I'd ask the officials we have here today to be as concise as possible, and I'd ask everyone in the audience to keep any applause to an absolute minimum so that we can get through as many questions as we can. Now, the officials we have up here will have a maximum of 2 minutes to answer the questions, and our friend Jake Brady down there on the front row will hold up a yellow card when they have 15 seconds left, and a red card when it's about time to wrap up that last thought. So let's get started with the first question.
David Sand will ask our first question.
Hi, my name is David Sand, and I'm a junior here at East Long Meadow High School, and my question is for Representative Ash.
I'm watching you, David.
Oh man. In Massachusetts, a special permit is required to own a firearm capable of holding more than 10 rounds per magazine. This is defined as a high-capacity magazine here. In other states, high capacity can mean much more than 10. Mississippi, for example, doesn't define or regulate high-capacity magazines. Why is there this difference, and what prevents people from bringing these firearms across state lines?
Very good question. As you probably already know, every state, including the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, has their own laws. That's what separates us from the federal government. And everybody, you know, depending where you live in the country, they have different philosophies about guns. And I know sometimes we get very concerned about our gun laws in Massachusetts. Some people think they're not strict enough. Some people think they're way too strict. We actually have some of the more strict gun laws in the entire country. When it comes to the difficult thing is, because we don't have standard rules across the United States, that somebody has more leniency in another state like Mississippi or other parts of the country, coming back and forth makes it very difficult to regulate guns and gun use, especially with the high capacity weapons. There's some people that believe they should have the right to have those. They should have the right to have any piece of ammunition that they want, whether it's a bazooka or a 9mm gun. They think it's their right. In the Second Amendment, they think that the government is infringing upon their rights. So there's a fine line between trying to figure out what's right, trying to live by the Constitution and uphold the laws, but mostly making sure that all of us are safe in our homes and we don't have to worry about the wrong people getting access to them. And I think that's probably the biggest concern when we talk about guns. It's like drugs and other things. It's not the actual thing that's bad, but it's what people do with them, and how do we control that, or how do we have a better handle on it. And I think that's what we all struggle with, making sure we have the best ideas. Unfortunately, you can't legislate good behavior. You know what I mean? We can make all the laws we want in the world, we could ban all guns, but that's not gonna stop violence. That's not gonna stop people from smuggling guns in from other countries or wherever. So a lot of this is trying to get a paradigm shift, trying to get people back to good values as opposed to excessive violence, and that's something we all need to work on, and that's why having something like this today is so. Did you raise the red flag at me yet? I'm watching you too. and I am out of time. Hopefully that gave you some answer, but I wish there was one answer I could give you that just says, okay, that fits in perfect, but with a topic like this, there's so many opinions and there's so many different answers. That's why it's so important to get people, all of you guys together and all of us together to kind of come up with some ideas and to make sure we're all on at least the same page going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next question will be asked by Jason Ayala.
Hi, my name is Jason Ayala. I'm a junior here at ELHS. First of all, I'd just like to say thank you for all of you coming here, taking time out of your day to come and talk to us. My question is for Senator Lesser. Why is there a tendency for the left to lean toward banning assault rifles such as the AR-15 when the vast majority of gun violence crimes are done with handguns?
Great question, Jason. So before I dive into that, I just want to first thank East Longmeadow for having me. I've got a lot of great friends at East Longmeadow High School. Some of you probably know Mr. Bale, your English teacher, who was my debate coach when I was in high school and has been a great mentor and friend to me for a long. He was a very, very young teacher then. But Mr. Bale is a special guy to me and a special teacher to me. And the host or master of ceremonies of today's event, Noah, has been an intern for me for several years and has done a fantastic job. We're very proud of you, Noah, so we're excited for all the things you're going to continue to do. The heart of your question, I think, is the reasoning is because high-capacity magazines and weapons like the AR-15 are designed for the specific purpose of hurting as many people as possible. The rationale for having stricter regulations around assault weapons versus, for example, a handgun, which is used more for self-defense or things like that, is because an assault weapon is designed really with the intent to inflict as much damage in as quick an amount of time as possible. And I think most of us would probably agree. We have a Second Amendment here in this country. We've had it for a long time. Western Massachusetts has a proud history of legal gun ownership. We're the home of Smith & Wesson. We're the home of the Armory. George Washington put the Armory here. But that being said and that being understood, common sense, evidence-based safety protections around things like assault weapons, I personally think are very... Yellow flag, all right. I'm following that. How much time does that mean I have? 30 seconds. So to wrap it up, because it's an important question, Jason, I think make a lot of sense. We regulate driving a car. We regulate how your speed limits. We have safety and common sense safety regulations on a whole host of products, and I think weapons and guns should be included in that. Thank you.
Our next question will be asked by Jaden Taylor.
Hi, I'm Jaden Taylor. I'm a sophomore, and my question is for Deirdre Mayhew. What are your thoughts on the teachers being armed at our schools?
I'm sorry, just say that last.
What are your thoughts on our teachers being armed at schools?
Oh, okay. So the question relates to teachers being armed at school. I am not for it. I feel that our teachers should be here to do the job of educating our students. We do have a great police force in town, and they should be the ones that protect our students and our schools, whereas the teachers should be here to educate our students. That for me is the short, sweet answer. I don't know if anyone else on my board has another opinion, wants to add to it.
I have a humorous opinion. I mean, I was the principal here for 23 years. I can't see myself walking down the halls with a couple of guns on my shoulder, on my hips, ready to use them in a second. So I really think, as Ms. Mayhew said, let's leave the guns to the professionals who know how to use them. We have a great police force. That's where they belong. Our teachers are effective teachers. Let's let them teach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Turnberg will ask our next question.
Hi, my name is Greg Turnberg. I'm a junior here, and this question is for Senator Lesser. Extreme risk protection orders enable courts to temporarily prohibit a person from possessing firearms if law enforcement or immediate family members show that they possess a significant danger to themselves or others. Do you support this legislation, and why?
Great, great question. So that legislation is before us right now, and I do support that legislation. So for a few reasons. Number one, you do have to go to a judge. So it's not just someone's willy-nilly opinion about whether or not someone is dangerous. You have to present evidence to a judge, and the judge would make a determination based off the facts presented to them. The truth is unfortunately, when you see the stories of these school shootings or of these other incidents of violence, there are often quite a lot of warning signs before the actual event occurs. Unfortunately, we all read about this after the fact in the newspaper, but when you go through these news articles, what they talk about are there were a series of signs, there were a series of warnings. People in the community kind of generally knew something wasn't right, or that the person was in trouble, and that maybe that person shouldn't have had access to a firearm or to a weapon. The bill that is pending right now at the State House was actually partially written by a former intern of mine who's from Oklahoma, not from Massachusetts, but came to Massachusetts for school. He had an incident where a friend of his from the community he grew up in Oklahoma, the community knew that this kid was in trouble, that they weren't feeling right, that they were having depressive episodes, and they actually went to the local gun shop and asked the gun shop not to sell a gun to this individual. And the gun shop said, we're following the law, and we're not going to go beyond what the law says. If a measure like this was in place there, that person could have been prevented from doing a lot of harm to people, and a lot of harm ultimately to himself. So I think this is a very important piece of legislation. Again, it's based on evidence, and it's based on a judge having the final say, not one person or another's opinion.
Thank you.
All right, our next question is from Anna Langevin.
Hi, I'm Anna Langevin. I'm a 10th grader here at ELHS. My question is for Representative Ash. The Judicial Court in Massachusetts ruled last month that the Commonwealth's ban on civilian ownership of stun guns is unconstitutional. What is your opinion on civilian ownership of stun guns?
I stand by that decision. I don't see a need to have stun guns for people unless somebody has some reason I don't know about. I think we have plenty of protections already. We already have, obviously, a huge debate about guns as well. So I think spreading it even thinner, and I think you get those in the wrong hands, the wrong people. I'm sure that some people would use them responsibly, you know, if they're at home and somebody breaks in using it, but I think when you have the more weapons and the more ways you have to injure people in people's homes, I think the more problems that you're going to lead to. And unfortunately, it's the humans, all of us, are the ones that end up making bad decisions. And I think the Supreme Judicial Court made a good decision saying that, because I just think more bad than good can come out of it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Hannah Dubé.
I'm Hannah Dubé. I'm a senior here. This is the first in a set of 3 questions, but the first one is for Town Councilor Kathleen Hill. In 2016, Longmeadow voted against 3 proposals for gun control bylaws. The first article calls for a $300 fine imposed on anyone who carries a firearm, rifle, or shotgun in town-owned buildings and on recreation property. Do you think this should be enacted in East Longmeadow?
Thank you, Hannah. That's a good question, and I'm not sure I do have the answer to that. Certainly, for folks who violate the laws, there ought to be consequences. Something of that nature has yet to come before the council. It's a topic that I'm sure our police chief, D'Alessio, probably has an opinion on, but to be fair and truthful, I'm not sure what that opinion is first, and it's typically the position of myself and my council colleagues to not legislate, if you will, in a vacuum. Before we would jump to that kind of an action, we would certainly bring all the other stakeholders in, like the chief of police. And individuals like your resource officer, those folks in the community who have a sense of what the statistics might be about those who may be carrying in the community and what the level of offenses might be to date. But it certainly is something that needs to be on the radar of the police department as well as the council if they feel that there's enough data there to go forward with.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question is from Raina Pleviak.
My name is Raina Pleviak. I'm a freshman. My question is for Town Councilor Don Anderson. This question is the second in a series of 3 in regards to bylaws that were not passed in Longmeadow. The second warrant article would require gun owners to provide the police department with descriptions including the serial number, make, model, and caliber of each firearm, rifle, or shotgun they own. Do you support this? Why or why not?
I have to, again, excellent question. I have to echo Councilor Hill's comments. I mean, in principle, having knowledge in the town, by our police department, of what weapons are within the community is obviously, appears on the surface to be a very good idea. We have a program called a 911 program, and don't let the name fool you. You just go onto our town website. And what the town needs to know and wants to know is to get people to sign up and get information to our police and first responders about, you know, who's in the house, if you have an elderly person in the house that might need extra attention, pets and so forth. And so what we've done now at a communication level is trying to get that message out. I chair a social media subcommittee, and we're trying to find strategies to get our community more engaged instead of the old-fashioned copper phone lines communication. We're using text messaging, email, and so forth. So this follows suit along that same line of trying to get information to the police department. But again, our process is very transparent. If a proposal like this came together, we try to avoid, we all have our opinions, but we want to listen to what the stakeholders, the public has to say. So what Chief DeLessio or members of the police force and others, we want them to chime in. We'll have a public hearing. And anyone, who shows up who's a citizen can chime in as well. And then we're going to deliberate and make a decision at that point. So knowledge is important, and I encourage people to be a part of this process. And I'd like to segue one more point on this whole knowledge.
Yellow flag.
Okay, I got the yellow. Okay, I'll defer to my next question on that one. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Our next question is from Jenny Gao.
Hi, I'm Jenny Gao, and I'm a senior at ELHS. My question is for Don Anderson, and it's the last of the series. The question is, the third proposed bylaw would ban assault weapons in Longmeadow and impose a $300 per day fine on people who own them within the town. Do you support this? Why or why not?
Well, I happen to be one of those, my position is I'm not a fan of people having assault weapons, and I'll probably get kicked out of the Republican Party for just saying that. But I think there needs to be responsible gun ownership. I support the Second Amendment as I support the First and all amendments that are currently in our Constitution and people's rights. But at the same token, I think we need to have responsible gun control. But at the same line, the definition of what assault weapon has to be defined. I may perceive one as a modified AR weapon, but a gun owner may say no, a revolver, could be considered an assault weapon. So I think we really, again, reel back to having true, honest communication, and what we're having here is a good start on it. So I think I need to listen to what the public has to say and be educated to what the true definition is of an assault weapon. If my definition is a weapon that typically is used in military type activities versus a weapon that might be used by a responsible gun owner or hunter, that's where the process works its way out, by having open dialogue, open communication, and if it's appropriate for the town of East Long Meadow, respecting the rights, listening to counsel from our town attorney, as well as making sure we're not infringing on legitimate people's rights, then it may be something, it's certainly something to consider.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Eddie A.G.
Hello, my name's Eddie A.G. My question is for Senator Lesser. Semi-automatic assault rifles with an extended magazine, bump stock, and advanced scopes are machines of war. They're designed for one purpose, and that purpose is to kill. When you go hunting, you use a hunting rifle. When you want to defend yourself, you use a handgun, just like how our police use a handgun. So I ask you, Senator, why are people still allowed to purchase AR-15s?
Eddie, thank you. Great question. So in Massachusetts, they are not, and the bump stocks in particular, they also are not. That's effective from a few months ago, shortly after the Las Vegas shooting that you saw at the casino in Las Vegas. We banned bump stocks in Massachusetts. We did that on a bipartisan vote, and our Republican governor went along and signed that ban. You're exactly right. What a bump stock does is it distorts the way a rifle is designed so that it literally starts, it manipulates the trigger to rapidly shoot the bullets far faster than the rifle is designed to shoot. And it does two things. One, it turns a normal semi-automatic weapon into an automatic weapon. The other thing it does is it's impossible to be accurate because it's going so fast, the weapon shoots and moves in every direction. So it's basically designed to spray as many bullets as possible over as broad an area as possible. There is no conceivable legitimate use for a mechanism like that, which is why we banned them in Massachusetts, and I'm actually happy to see even President Trump has supported banning them on a federal level. To complete your question though, Eddie, we can control what we can control in Massachusetts, but something that makes me very frustrated is that we can't control someone who legally purchases an assault weapon in another state, like in Alabama or Mississippi or Florida or wherever, and driving it up I-91 into Massachusetts,
Yellow flag.
and then selling it in our communities. And the only way to solve that challenge is to mobilize and engage on a federal level with Congress and with the President to make changes federally as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie A.G. Our next question goes to Calvin Duong.
Hi, my name is Calvin Duong, and I'm in 10th grade. My question is for Representative Ash. How do you create safer gun laws without restricting the rights of lawful gun owners?
I'm sorry, could you repeat it again?
How do you create safer gun laws without restricting the rights of lawful gun owners?
Oh, that's a great question, and unfortunately, there's not a great answer. How do you make it safe with gun laws, right? Whatever we do, some people are going to feel their rights are infringed upon. And when you talk about gun laws and gun issues and why we're all here together, it's kind of multi-layered. I think first you have people, I think everybody is against gun violence. It doesn't matter what side you're on, Republican, Democrat, NRA, not everybody's against gun violence, and I think we all want to see that corrected. Where you have the problem is when you define people's rights and what they have the right to. And I would imagine if we went around this room, even probably on this panel, people have different opinions of what their rights are about guns and what people should be able to carry and what people shouldn't be able to carry. And that's where we debate all the time. Myself, Senator Lesser, your counsel here, they all have varying opinions. And as I'd mentioned earlier, we have probably some of the strictest gun laws in the country here in Massachusetts, yet there's some would think they're not strict enough. They think we need to go even farther, and then others think they're way too strict. So there is no steadfast answer I can give you to say how you do it. This is one of those things we have varying opinions. That's why it's so important to have all of you in the room, to have us, because, you know, we vote on things all the time, and we have our own opinions about certain issues. We'll go to experts if we want to get more information, but really, we represent everybody here. So we take our cues from you as well. We want to hear what your thoughts are on these issues, what you think about gun rights, whether you think we should have more gun laws, whether you think we should have less gun laws, and why. Because at the end of the day, we make our votes because we're representing you, and we want to make sure that we're accurately representing what you believe. And I wish I had a quick response, or a response that made perfect sense, but when you talk about gun laws and when you talk about varying opinions like this, it's difficult because we all come from different backgrounds, we all have different opinions about it. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, our next question is from Victoria Gonzalez.
Hi, my name is Victoria Gonzalez, and I'm a junior here at Eastland Middle High School. My question is for Officer Ingalls. During a school lockdown, we are told to hide. My question for you is, what is the purpose of hiding instead of just running away? I feel like it just makes us an easier target.
That's a great question. And I understand, right, the first thing when you have fears, run away. But in a situation like that, so for example, someone's in the school with a weapon. It's an active shooter situation. We want you to almost shelter in place. If I have everybody running out of the classrooms and someone's in the hall shooting a weapon, it's hard for me to decipher who's who. It's mass hysteria, as we saw in Parkland. That's what happened, where people got hurt in the hallways. So if you're in your classrooms, you're there, you're safe, everyone knows what to do. They go into the corner, away from a window, and you're safer behind those cement walls than you are running through a hallway, not knowing where a shooter is or someone is with a gun. That way that we can deal with the threat, attack that threat, and take care of it without any other people becoming victims in the hallways. You're welcome.
Our next question is from Brendan Mayu.
Hi, I'm Brendan Mayu. I'm a freshman here at ELHS. This is for Senator Lesser. What was your response to the massive student movement following the Parkland shootings? How has it motivated you to take action since?
Great question. So I wouldn't embarrass you by saying I'm a big fan of your mom's, but it's a great. Too late. Great question. In all seriousness, I wish that we didn't have to have this moment, right? I wish we didn't have to just have a conversation like we just had, to have a high school student in America in 2018 asking whether it's safer to shelter in place or to run. I wish we didn't have to have that conversation. I don't think anyone on this stage, I don't think anyone in this room would want us to be having that conversation in a perfect world, but that's the world we're living in, and that's the situation we're living in. And I think if any good could come out of a tragedy like Parkland, out of a massacre like you saw there, is to make sure that the children that died there don't die in vain, and that their memory lives on through the advocacy and the mobilization of everyone in this room. And the lesson that I think we all need to take from that is it's going to be all of you. It's going to be your generation that pushes for the change. Because no offense to anyone up on this stage, but we need to be pushed, right? Mm-hmm. We need young people to step up and to lean into these issues. And I would challenge it by also saying it's a given, and we need your voice on school safety, on gun control issues, on crime, and on public safety. But we also need your voice on the environment. We need your voice on education. We need your voice on civil rights. We need your voice on a whole host of issues. So we need your generation stepping up. We need your generation engaged. I'll just end. I see the yellow, so I know I have 20 seconds left and the bell's going off. There has not been a single movement in this country, whether it was the civil rights movement, the women's rights movement, the environmental movement of the 70s and 80s, the women's suffrage movement, the labor movement that set up labor unions and worker protections, that was not driven by young people. It was young people that pushed the envelope and that demanded change, because all of you are less attached to the way of doing things. So I would say this moment that we've seen since Parkland brings that into stark relief. So I turn that right back to everyone in this room, and I say we need all of you stepping up and engaged.
Thank you. Our next question is from Emily McManus.
Hi, I'm Emily McManus. I'm a senior. My question is for Senator Lesser. How can you plan to keep schools safe without giving students a sense of restricted freedom?
Well, I think that's a great question. First, I want to thank the officer who's here and the East Longmeadow Police Department and your teachers who do a really fantastic job. I always feel safe in the East Longmeadow schools, and it's really a tribute to them, and we want to thank you and the great work. Let's give them a round of applause because they... I guess the short way I would answer that is we need your voice pushing for change. We need your voices pushing for laws. But please, please, and I say this, my kids are a lot younger. I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. But focus on having fun in school and in learning and in doing your homework and doing all that stuff, doing your activities, doing your sports practices. I hope that you feel safe enough. You know, aware of your surroundings, be responsible, pay attention, but just know that everyone on this stage and everyone in your community wants and needs you to be safe. And so, you know, I personally don't support teachers being armed in school. I think teachers have enough to worry about without having that added to their plate as well. I do think we need to work with our police. We need to make sure they have the training they need, they have the resources they need, they have the manpower and the support they need. I think we need to improve collaboration and coordination between our institutions like our high schools and our state, local, and federal law enforcement. We need to make sure all of that is synced up. But I would say your number one job for all of us though is to come to school every day and focus on getting your studies done and making friends and spending time with your friends and living out your life. And we'll work on fulfilling the other end of that.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Ricky Gao.
Hi, my name is Ricky Gao, and I'm currently in 10th grade in ELHS. My question is directed at Bill Fonseca. Do you believe that we should have metal detectors in schools? Why or why not?
No, I do not believe we need metal detectors in our schools, and I have several reasons for saying that. I don't think it's to anyone's benefit to make schools feel like prisons. We have a buzzer system, we have a camera system, we know who's coming into the buildings right now. I recently attended a National School Board conference in San Antonio, Texas, and metal detectors in schools was a primary topic of a few of the breakout sessions. My colleagues across the country do not believe in metal detectors in schools. This should be a learning environment, not a prison. I believe we have enough safeguards in place to ensure safety in our buildings as we currently go about our everyday business.
Thank you.
I just wanted to follow up on this. This is an issue that we as a school committee really have some thought about this and discussions on this. So I just wanted to know, we have a good population right here. If you can just give us some input, how many of you, by raising your hand, might feel safer, the word safer, just for having metal detectors? If you can just put your hands up, you might feel safer. Because really safety is a feeling, right? And then if you can put your hands down, how many feel that you might be giving up part of your civil liberties, your civil rights, by metal detectors in the building? Okay. So we as school committee members, we're just parents, we're just people from the community. We need input from you because we want you to feel safe, but we don't want to take away your civil liberties. So it is quite the balancing act, and your input is useful, so thank you.
Our next question is from Alicia Cochran.
My name is Alicia Cochran, and I am a junior here at East Long Meadow High School, and my question's for Representative Ash. Students all around Massachusetts and the U.S. have organized walkouts, marches, and written letters to elected officials expressing their opinions on school safety. What are the conversations that you're having with your colleagues to make a significant change?
Well, thank you very much for the question. And kind of echo what Senator Lesser said earlier. It's so important for all of you guys to get engaged. It's sad that we have to be in a state like that where something horrific happens that gets people going. But I try to look at the silver lining when you have a horrible incident. Sadly, it does bring everybody together. And the walkout, I thought, was tremendous because it got our youth engaged. It got them caring about what's going on in our country. It got them caring about what's going on in their own schools, in their own neighborhoods, and it gives them a voice. I think too often young people or just the general public in general feel like they don't have a voice. They feel like whatever is being done, whether it's the school committee, town council, House of Representatives or Senate, they feel like maybe they don't have a voice and think, well, you do have a voice. You have a voice and it's loud and strong, but you have to be able to use it. And I think when people walked out, when they had that, and the way they did it was so important because it was an organized effort to do something positive. And I was so impressed that across the Commonwealth, I'm impressed that, the students in my district, and I know everybody up here, I'm guessing believes the same way, but it just shows that people do care. And you have a very strong voice, and it's so important, like today, having a couple hundred people in here showing that you have concerns about things and you want to share your concerns. And some of you have answers probably better than we do. So we take your cues. Again, we listen to everything. We have our own opinions, as I mentioned earlier, but we really value what you say and we value what you do. And going back earlier, I have a son that's 20 years old. My daughter's graduating from Long Meadow High School this year. I don't want her being in school, and I don't want the next generation going where teachers have to carry guns and metal detectors. I want our kids to be free. I don't want people to change the way we do lives. We should make our decisions. We shouldn't be dictated by some horrible people, some bad people out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Rachel DePonte.
Okay. My name is Rachel DePonte, and I'm a junior at East Long Meadow High School. And my question's for Officer Ingalls. Why do we all go to the front of the school in plain sight during drills?
What kind of drill are you talking about? Just any drill, like a lockdown drill?
Yeah. Wait, not lockdown.
No, not lockdown. I'm sorry, fire drill, like an evacuation drill. That's the spot that was designated, kind of like a bigger spot where we could get a large group of people so that the teachers can find out who's where. Obviously, if there was an issue in the front of the school, if there was a fire or something like that, we would have to move that area to somewhere else. But that's just your designated area, big enough to hold that many number of kids and have it organized. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Our next question is from Mike Moynihan.
Hi, I'm Mike Moynihan. I'm a sophomore here. My question is for Kathleen Hill. What do the town council and the police department do together to ensure that the schools in the town are safe?
That's a good question. I want to point out to everyone that the town council form of government is still pretty new for this town. We're just on the edge of finishing up our second year as the town's governing body. We work very closely with all department heads in the town, whether it be the rec department, the library, the highway department, but we especially take our cue from our police chief and our fire chief as it relates to trends of incidences, whether they are good ones or bad ones. And we keep a very open communication with them. And it's not unusual in any given week for someone like me or Counselor Anderson to have upwards of a dozen phone calls with various department heads in town over various issues. The key to being able to run a government in a smooth and transparent manner is to stay in communication with one another. So though you might only see us if you check out the YouTube videos every other Tuesday night, there is a lot of behind the scenes, efforts to make sure that we are working in concert with all of the other big decision makers in town, and not to exclude the school department either, and I don't mean that having forgotten that as a slight. We need everyone's input so that we're making reasonable decisions.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Abby St. Marie.
Hi, my name is Abby St. Marie. I'm a junior here. My question is for Representative Ash. There has been an overwhelming increase in anxiety due to recent school shooting incidents. How do you think we can work together to decrease anxiety that is caused by these incidents?
Well, thank you for the question. I think something like this is probably where you start. Having open communication and giving a voice to people like yourself. I think the worst thing you can do is when people feel like nobody's giving them information, when they feel like everything's happening behind closed doors, or maybe people really aren't even doing anything for their behalf. I think when we have open forums like this, and when you see, we're all together here, our senator, representative, our town council, our school committee, our educators, and the students, I think that helps to take some of the anxiety away. And I can just tell you, I'm a little older than some of you, but I can tell you when I was a kid, we always had the fear of nuclear war. We thought, the Russians were gonna bomb us, and I remember as a kid being afraid about it. But people would talk about it, and they'd let you know that these are just drills we go through, and this, you guys are actually seeing things happening, so I can certainly understand the anxiety. But the more we talk about it, the more we have open communication, the more you understand that our concerns are just as grave as yours. We don't want to see anything happen. As I mentioned, I have a daughter that's graduating this year, a son graduated, Senator Lesser has 2 young children. Many of the people up here have children school age, so this is a professional, but it's more personal, I think, for all of us, because this happens in our community, and we care about all of your welfare. And I hope that helps alleviate some of the anxiety that people may have, knowing that we're all in this together. We all do care about it. We might have different opinions about how we approach it, or about civil rights and what's right and what's wrong. But at the end of the day, we all care about your safety, our safety. We want to make sure that you get up in the morning, when you go to school, as Senator Lesser mentioned, you should be thinking about, what are you doing in class? Do you have a game that day? Are you going out after school? All those things, the things that really are a great part of your life. Thank you.
I'm sorry to do this, but just a short follow-up, a very specific point about help with sort of mental health and anxiety. I'm not that much older than you guys. It might seem that way. I was in middle school when Columbine happened, which was really one of the first major school shootings, and so kind of my generation, my kind of classmates, we grew up with a similar kind of level of fear and anxiety about school violence, and it's only gotten magnified substantially since then, because unfortunately it's gotten worse and worse. But one very specific area where we can help in the state is through increased funding for school adjustment counselors and through mental health support in schools. Unfortunately, when budgets get tight, and it's no one's fault, this is just a reality of how state budgets work, I think it's problematic that one of the first things that gets cut from education budgets are the school substance abuse counselors and mental health providers and guidance counselors. And those are the folks that are really often on the front lines of helping students cope with these types of stresses. So I think one very specific thing that we could do, and something we can probably bring back, Brian and I can bring it back and we can work with the town on, is increased funding for those types of services.
Thank you. Our next question is from Abby Donahue.
Hi, my name is Abby Donahue, and I'm a junior here at East Long Meadow High School. I'd like to thank the administration again for putting this event on and allowing some of us to speak. My question is for Senator Eric Lesser. How is mental health treatment made available to people who otherwise might not be able to afford it? Not just students, but adults as well. And how can we as students support these initiatives?
Great question. It's Abby, you said?
Yes.
Abby, a great question, Abby. So I touched on it already a little bit. So I talked a little bit about the access for students, which is often the first line really is school. It's their teachers, it's their coaches, and it is designated guidance counselors and mental health providers in the school system. So we need to, I actually think we need to enhance that even more. We need to increase funding for those services. For people that aren't in school, or don't have traditional access points to care, whether it's that they don't have a primary care doctor, or they don't have a very tight social network, like let's say a tight, close-knit family, or they're not part of an existing organization or a big employer that can provide those types of services, it's a very big challenge, and it's a big problem. So we've, for example, one item I've worked on at the State House is around increased access to the Good Samaritan anti-suicide hotline. We had an absolutely horrific set of circumstances where people were calling these suicide hotlines and were getting answering services and voicemails. And so we've worked in a bipartisan way. Again, on TV it doesn't look that way, but most of what we do is bipartisan and is with both parties working together. We work to get some more funding, get some more improvements to those hotlines. I also think we need to do a better job of getting mental health services to where people are. So we need to do more with social media outreach. We need to do more with things like meeting people after hours. Phone lines are good, but that's a sort of antiquated way of communicating at this point. We need to do more with, for example, text messaging. Like, how many people text? How many people call 800 numbers? Right. Yeah, how many even know what an 800 number is? So we need to catch up to where people are at, and we need to do a better job of getting those services where people
Yellow
are.
card. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Katie Roder.
Hi, I'd just like to thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule to come talk with us. My name is Katie Roder, and I'm a senior here. And my question is for Kathleen Hill, and it kind of goes off what Senator Lesser has been talking about. The need to provide students mental health support at school is somewhat new and growing, but these resources require funding. How does the town council support the school's effort to help get the services that are needed for things such as this?
Well, your question is very timely because right now, at the town council level, working with our town manager, we are trying to establish a working budget for the next fiscal year, which starts on July 1st. One of the struggles is in trying to meet all of the very important needs that every department in town has, most particularly the school department, is to find a way to fund as much as possible without overburdening the taxpayers, which translates, that's code for the adults you're living with who have to pay the tax bills to keep the town moving. And it's not an easy task. As a career educator, up until 5 years ago, I was your middle school principal. It's very, very difficult for me to sit at the table now, knowing that some of the requests from the school department might not reach the point where we can fund it. And I say that about the police department and the fire department, but it troubles me most deeply when, or if I have to look and not vote in favor of something when it relates to schools, because it's very clear to all of us here, but for educators it's extremely clear that we have to do a better job with providing your generation with those kind of mental health services inside the schoolhouse. When I was a kid in school, that wasn't even on the radar, but life has gotten strangely complex, and life is a challenge for everyone, and with it has become the need to address kids' emotional challenges. And if we can't get, this is where you live the majority of your life when you're not sleeping. We need to meet you here and give you those opportunities. And we will do our very best as a council to fund as much as we can, but I call on my colleagues at the State House, and they know it, and they're in concert with us. We need ways to have more funds come to the East Long Meadows, the Long Meadows, all the towns in the Commonwealth, so we can do what we really need to do.
In what ways are you looking for help in that situation?
If the money comes to the town, well, I would be the greatest, on the council, I'm probably the strongest advocate for giving the schools as much as we can possibly give to get these programs done. And once we give the money to the school department, we don't sit there and tell them how to spend it. They're elected. You have very intelligent leaders who are running your school department. They know exactly where the money should go to be spent. Having had the advantage of being an educator, I probably can read their minds, and so I know that they want services for kids. It's not just the books. It's not just more money to fix the athletic fields. I'm just making up examples. It's really the services that make you be as healthy and intelligent as we can possibly provide for you.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Austin Richardson.
Hi, my name is Austin Richardson. I'm a junior here at ELHS. My question is for Richard Ficero. Why is taking a mental health day not considered to be an excused absence?
I'm not going to say that's a great question. That's a hard question. So repeat it. Let me say it back to you, my friend. Why is a mental health day not counted as an excused absence?
Yeah, it's not like, why is it not considered to be an excused absence?
Okay, that's very complex. And let me see if I can answer that in the most organized fashion. First, we are educating here the total student. And I define the total student, I'm going to borrow from an area college, as the balance of body, mind, and spirit. So when you come into this building, we all hope that you have that balance of body, mind, and spirit. Suppose you don't. Then we need to get that personal relationship thread moving. It starts at the home. Conversations at home. You discuss it with your parents or guardians. Maybe the idea is to call in and say, so-and-so won't be in today, they're sick. To do something different than feeling overwhelmed. Now, moving from the home, let's keep that personal relationship thread moving. Let's go into the school now. It's my expectation that every student in this building has an adult they can go to talk to, for advice, for guidance. And maybe at that point, with that discussion, other options open up. Maybe the person says, the teacher says, take the day off tomorrow. Or maybe it is, maybe you should talk to your guidance counselor, or school adjustment counselor. Find out what other options are out there, just other than calling in sick. Then at that point, we go to another network, personal relationship network, which is the outside, the medical personnel, social workers, therapists. We may have to go that far. Because we want to keep the total student in balance, body, mind, and spirit. An example, sir, we have put in our budget for a social, emotional staff member at Birchland Park. Why Birchland Park? Because that is the area, the grade level, that has the highest incidence of mental health situations. So we as a school committee are very much aware of this. Mental health is at the top of our list. So let me conclude by saying this. We're here to educate the total student. That means giving everybody the maximum opportunity for success, or the way I like to say it, the best opportunity to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Caitlin Hogan.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Hogan. I'm a senior here. My question is for Greg Thompson. What can the school committee do to help provide support to students who are in need of social-emotional support?
Thank you, Caitlin. Mr. Ficero took some of my fire, I guess, on that one, but it tends to happen a lot. It's definitely a topic that's on our minds a lot, on our discussions a lot. Social emotional support, as it was discussed, certainly at the middle school, but here as well. You have a lot of great counselors, great teachers that are here. We're fully in support of that. We talked about funding at a funding level, at the town level. We are also looking at modifications to buildings that we could make to make them safer, make people feel safer. One of the other things I just wanted to bring up, and it's maybe a little hokey or not though, is I think we as a people, as Americans, are getting isolated. And you feel it when you walk down the hallway here or down the street or something. We don't make eye contact, I think, as much as we used to. So I think it's small things like that. Smile to someone in the hallway, wave hello. You might not even know them, but it could be the opportunity for someone who hasn't had much interaction with people throughout the day to get that little feeling of, I'm here, somebody noticed I'm here. It's small stuff like that we as a community, we're very fortunate to live in a small town that has a lot of resources and a lot of good people. So I think it's us collectively, it's this group up here that will make decisions, policy decisions and such, but also with input from all of you. This is great. I've been now on the committee for 10 years. This is the first time we've had a town hall meeting like this, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to focus and to see what you all are thinking about too, because we don't get out to do that often. Us being on the school committee, we're in that room way down the hall every other Monday night, okay? So what I want you to know is, again, we're all parents. A lot of us are parents, not grandparents yet, but just focus on somebody else down there. But we're here for you. Your teachers are here for you. The administration is here for you. And know that the people that get involved in this room are here for exactly the right reason. It's for you, and they're here to help you and all of you. So lean on them. Come see us if we can help. We don't know it all, so anything you can give us is always welcome. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Our next question is from Samantha Resto.
Hi, my name is Samantha Resto. I'm a junior, and my question is for Richard Ficero. Have you considered hiring a police officer or a security guard to be at the main entrance throughout the school day, and or having an identification system for students as they walk in?
Let me take a moment, because we've had a lot of answers already on that from Mr. Fonseca and our recess officer, Mike Ingalls, down there. But let me just say this. In my role at AIC, I tour a lot of different schools throughout Western Massachusetts. And I can tell you it's a minority that have metal detectors. Most schools have a resource officer, if not what they call the Quebec Force, which is in Springfield. So that right now, I would say that what we have here is very appropriate. Why do I say that? Let's go back to what Mr. Fonseca said. We have a buzzer system. We have cameras. We also have a resource officer. Now let me add to that. When I was principal here, the most important safety factor in this building was every single student. I can tell you there were times, this is before cameras, I'm much older than all of you, but before cameras were here, we knew within minutes when it was a stranger in this building. You know how? Kids came right down to the office and said, Mr. Ficero, there's someone walking the halls, we've never seen him before. You're the ones that keep this building safe, I can tell you right now. You're identifying who should not be here and letting the appropriate people know. So do we need metal detectors? No. Do we need a resource officer? Yes, for many different reasons. Not just safety, but for connection and for identity. And thirdly, you're the ones that keep the building safe by identifying anything that is inappropriate, a person who should not be here, and letting the office know. Thank you.
Our last question for today is from Nick Lehman.
Hi, my name is Nick Lehman. I'm a junior here at the high school, and my question is directed at Senator Lesser, but I think it's important that everyone on the stage right now thinks and can answer this question. Mental health support for teenagers is often limited, expensive, and incredibly untimely in terms of access. What can we do as a group to make mental health care more accessible for teenagers in this building?
Great question. Let's give that a round of applause. So first, Nick, before I dive into that, because this was the last question, right? I just want to thank East Long Meadow High School for the invitation and for having me here today. I really enjoyed it, and I do also want to just say and echo what's kind of the sentiment that's been said, which we're very blessed and very lucky, and each of you is very lucky to live in a community like East Long Meadow. You have a fantastic school here. You have a great principal, a great superintendent. You have a great school committee that's very committed. We work with closely on a whole host of issues, and a really fantastic town council and police department. And everyone is really very committed in this town to doing the right thing and to making sure that everyone here gets the chance to thrive and to grow up to all of your full potential. So I just want to acknowledge that, because I think often the default often in politics is to be very cynical and very negative about things, but I think it's important to thank and acknowledge the people in this town who work very, very hard. On your point about mental health care, in particular for teenagers, I come from a family of mental health providers. My mom is a clinical social worker. She has been for 40 years. My sister is a clinical psychologist. My mother-in-law is also a psychologist, so I'm surrounded. I went into politics, which might explain all that, but I think a few things. One is we still have a tremendous problem with stigma in our country, in our state, and frankly, even in our own community, even in communities as progressive and enlightened as East Long Meadow or the greater Springfield area. We still have a stigma around mental health. And we need to reduce that stigma, because if someone has diabetes, or someone has arthritis, or someone has a heart condition, the whole community is alerted and everyone knows, and you work with your doctors and people are very open about it. But if someone is suffering from depression, or if someone is feeling down, or if someone is having, God forbid, suicidal thoughts or something like that, the first instinct, quite frankly, is not to share that with your community and the people around you. And that's a big social change that we all need to work on. The other kind of a little bit more technical issue is we still have issues around mental health parity in terms of insurance coverage and in terms of how our healthcare system treats mental health issues versus physical health issues. So again, if you break your arm and you go into Bay State, you're treated 1, 2, 3, no questions asked. They've gotten a lot better, and I don't mean to single Bay State out, but the healthcare system has gotten better at treating mental health care and physical health care as equal, but there's a lot more to do. And then the final thing I would say is we need to also think about, and we need to do a lot more about thinking about how mental health, and especially adolescence and substance abuse, are all linked up, and how often these things are overlapping challenges that we need to address in a holistic way. And we need to address it from a perspective of a public health crisis rather than a law enforcement or criminal justice crisis. We ask our teachers to do too much, frankly, to be social workers, to be parents, to be educators, and we ask our police to do too much, I think, often, to be social workers and be law enforcement officials and sometimes be surrogate parents. We need to do a better job of getting more resources into communities so that teenagers have multiple places to go for help, multiple places to go for support, and then there's an infrastructure in place to help them once they do feel like they can get help.
Thank you.
If I could just add a little. Sorry. Just to add on great comments by Senator Lesser, and as well the thanks to everybody here involved and the great job they do. When you're talking about mental health and getting access in the school, I think the most important thing you can do as well is that's when you want the information going upwards. In other words, whether you tell your teacher, guidance counselor, your principal, they talk to the school committee maybe talks to the town council, or they call the state rep or the state senator and make it a priority for us and let us know that that's something we really need extra funding from. So it starts with you right there. So by you getting up and saying, hey, this is important, we need access to this, your school committee being on board, your town council, and them saying, hey, to the legislature, we need more money for funds like this. This is something extremely important. So that's, again, another great reason why a forum like this is so important, to open up and to let people know they have voices. And by the way, great hairdo. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So can we get one final round of applause for all of our elected officials that came here today? And thank you also to the students that asked questions today. Now, before we get to a more informal Q&A, I'd like to encourage everyone to register to vote. So anyone age 16 and up can pre-register or register online to vote. Just Google Massachusetts Register to Vote. I'm sure you'll be able to find it. It only takes a minute, and when you're 18, you'll be all set. And we have a school committee election coming up and some state primaries later this year, so if you're 18, make sure you're registered. And I'd also like to let everyone know about the privacy versus security debate that's being organized by the Poli-Sci Club, Model Congress, and the Debate Club. That'll be happening in just under 2 weeks on May 22nd during H Block, and it's organized entirely by students and will be allowing you to respond to any of the arguments made by the student panels and their teams. So if anyone wants more information, you can email me, noah.secondo@eastlongmeadowmay.gov, and we'll be giving more information on that to teachers in the coming days. But now we'll be moving on to some more informal questioning. So I'd ask those that have any questions to please come up and be sure to give your name, your grade, and who the question's for, and the question itself. If you could limit yourself to about 30 seconds and try to remain on topic, then that'd be great. Thank you.
Hi, it's not really a question, it's more of a statement directed at the school committee. I just think that mental health in schools should be taken really seriously because I know that I myself deal with anxiety, and some days I just can't come to school, and I always have to email my teacher saying hi, I'm sorry, I can't come in today. So I think that just having a resource or something so students don't have to go to teachers with that information, they can kind of go to someone and they can let them know, something like that, or just knowing that mental health isn't just going to be solved by someone saying hello to you in the hallway, or it's no, I didn't mean to, yeah. But just to take it a little bit more seriously, and yeah, thank you.
Just to let you know, we do take it seriously, and we have identified ways that we are going to try and work on this. It will take time, I'm sorry, but it is a priority of ours. Thank you.
Hi, I just have a quick question. Again, my name is Katie Roeder, and I asked a question before. I know how you said that you are always, Senator Lester, you're always happy to come here, and how you always feel safe here. And that is one thing, but at the same time, we may be physically secure, but sometimes our building can be a little less inviting than it might seem on first. And we do try, honestly, with our school. We have put so much work and effort into making our school the best that we can do with what we have. And I know for several years we've tried and applied for different scholarships to get our school rebuilt. And I think it's very important that we, start pushing for it a little bit more, because our building is falling apart around us. And all the students can agree, the ceilings or the floor of the second level, there are dips in it. There has been the ceiling leaks, tiles fall. So if you could just keep that in mind, if there would be any possible way, because it is a problem. We do.
Well, Katie, great points. So it sounds like it's time for a new high school at East Long Meadow, huh?
Please.
Yeah. Please. This is something, in all seriousness, I think the case speaks for itself. Mm-hmm. And I'm well aware of the condition of the building. I've been on multiple tours with Gordon and with your school committee and the whole.
So about all other things we've
and
found.
we're in very regular touch. Okay. So the short answer is we're working on it.
Thank you so much.
We've got a plan together to get a new one.
Mr. Fitzgerald. We're having dismissal right now, so if you want to come down informally, some of the kids can meet you. That would be fantastic.
Can we still ask the mic? Okay.
Just gonna have to cut off the mic. You guys go talk to him.